Last year's #1 film in North America, American Sniper, set off some controversy over its portrayal of the life of Chris Kyle, the most prolific sniper in U.S. history. While there is no question that the film's portrayal of Kyle is highly inaccurate, this should not be a factor in assessing its artistic merit. Still, due to the controversy around this portrayal, the film was argued to be pro-war, anti-war, or both, depending on the pundit voicing their opinion. When I watched the film, I found it to be surprisingly apolitical for a film that had created so much controversy. Directed by Clint Eastwood, American Sniper is a character study of a young man raised with a conservative Christian black and white worldview that is tested by the moral ambiguity of war and returns home to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. It plays like Sergeant York crossed with the story of G.I. Joe and a sprinkle of the best years of our lives. Most of the liberal complaints about the movie aren't even reflected in the movie itself. Many said that the movie is cut in a way to imply that the war in Iraq and 9/11 are connected. This is a huge stretch since Kyle witnessing the Twin Towers on fire is followed by a series of cuts, some flashbacks and some progressing in time before finally ending up with Kyle in Iraq. Also, the use of the term savages for the Iraqi insurgents occurs briefly and neutrally. Its use is similar to the use of the racial slur gook in Vietnam-era movies, which, while problematic, is nowhere near as pervasive as some of the film's critics would have you believe. So, is American Sniper pro-war or anti-war? The answer is again both or neither. Clint Eastwood is more interested in the internal conflict of his main character, and war is the vehicle through which that is explored. We never see the war through any perspective but that of the character of Chris Kyle. The scenes of combat are filmed in a way to seem exciting and heroic, while the serious problem of PTSD is explored later in the film. Also, the moral conflict and guilt Kyle feels are central throughout the film. There is even a scene where a child picks up a bazooka and Kyle is begging him to drop it, even as he has him lined in his gun sight. American Sniper is not meant to be in any way an anti-war statement, but could it be even if it wanted to? The French critic and filmmaker Francois Truffaut said no. Nobody could ever make an anti-war movie if that movie actually showed war. War, Truffaut argued, is inherently exciting when captured by the film camera. This is why Truffaut made the film The Green Room, an adaptation of the work of Henry James that dealt with survivor's guilt without showing any war itself. Similarly, The Best Years of Our Lives and Coming Home both deal with soldiers returning to the world and having a hard time adjusting to it, while leaving their war experiences to be only talked about and alluded to. In the former film, Harold Russell won a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for basically playing himself, an injured war veteran who had to adjust to life after having lost both hands in the war. During the early Hollywood era, and especially during World War II itself, war movies tended to be blindly patriotic, portraying veterans as heroic saviors of humanity, while dealing little with the dehumanizing elements of war, or the extreme psychological toll it takes on those that fight it. In the Vietnam era, things started to shift as public opinion of the war was mixed. This even led to the backlash of John Wayne making the hilariously dated film The Green Berets in order to show those hippies how a real war movie was made. Movies about Vietnam, however, whether we're talking about Apocalypse Now, or Platoon, or Full Metal Jacket, tend to show a strong anti-war message, but does the act of showing war itself undermine that message? War is a subject that director Stanley Kubrick was greatly interested in. His early film, Paths to Glory, is about soldiers on trial for cowardice, and his black comedy Dr. Strangelove savagely mocks the idea of Cold War mutually assured destruction. But Full Metal Jacket may be Kubrick's ultimate statement about war, and one of his most polarizing films. In order to get realistic boot camp scenes, he hired a real former drill sergeant and actor R. Lee Ermey, and had him improvise much of the abuse he heaps on the Green Marine recruits. The boot camp sequence takes up 1/3 of the film's runtime and climaxes with the murder-suicide when one recruit, played by Vincent D'Onofrio, snaps under the pressure of the abuse. The message is that the military system dehumanizes soldiers so that they can become better killers and lose their sense of individuality and basic humanity. Yet the film itself is often hailed by Marines for its realism and portrayal of the rigorous training the Marine Corps provides. The rest of the film has a tone most similar to Dr. Strangelove than any of Kubrick's other films. It savagely mocks the whole idea of war films, the idea of heroism, and the idea of good versus evil existing in a state as amoral as war. Yet the film is still viscerally exciting enough that a number of people come out of it thinking that war is pretty awesome. The savage irony of the film has a hard time competing with the excitement that portraying war on the screen creates for the audience. This happens with other kinds of films as well. Trainspotting may have a strong message about the circular nature of drug addiction, but it still makes its characters seem like cool, rebellious outsiders. The same can be said for a film like Scorsese's Goodfellas. Even though the ending is ironic and the violence brutal, we still come away thinking that being a gangster seems pretty cool. So what is the solution? I don't know, figure it out for yourself.